Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Stylosa, and let's talk about the secret SR system. Now, what the hell is this? You're probably thinking in the back. Well, what we're going to do is look at what Blizzard have said about their matchmaker, about their MMR, and about their SR system to try and work out what is going on with this system, because there is a fundamental issue with Overwatch, is we don't actually know what we're doing in the game and whether that's actually what we should be doing. There's loads of stuff going on with Mercy right now. Oh, is Mercy just hiding for reses? Does the system say, oh hey Mercy, if you get more reses than the average Mercy, so you get more ultimate usage, then you're probably a better Mercy, so have more SR. And there were people going, well, there's Mercies with under 40% win rate that are in GM. There's this, there's that. Now, there will always be anomalies to the system. We won't know if that is actually fact. The problem is, there are too many questions, and and for good reason. I'll get onto that later on in the video, but let's just take a look at what Jeff Kaplan and Scott Mercer have said about the SR system, about MMR, and about matchmaking. So firstly, we've got this from Jeff. Now, this is on the subject of the matchmaker, and this is what Jeff says. Anyway, this leads me to matchmaking rating. This rating is the most important thing that we try to match on. Basically, this rating means how good are you. Commonly, you'll hear this referred to as matchmaking rating, or MMR. MMR is derived differently in different games. Overwatch borrows a lot of knowledge from other games, probably means other Blizzard games there, guys, but also does a lot of things unique to Overwatch. As each player plays games, their matchmaking rating goes up or down depending on if they win or lose. The system is extremely complicated, and there is a lot more going on here that I'm going to spell out. So please don't take this as the comprehensive guide to how MMR is calculated in Overwatch. There is definitely a lot more going on under the hood. So that's a bit of an introduction to Jeff, just about to speak about the MMR system, and this is what he says then, in a little bit more detail. In Overwatch, whether your MMR goes up or down is contingent on winning or losing, but there are a number of factors that determine how much rating goes up or down. So he then goes into more detail and he says this. In Overwatch, whether your MMR goes up or down is contingent on winning or losing, but there are a number of factors that determine how much that rating goes up or down. For example, what map you're playing on and whether you were attacking or defending is factored in. We know that the win rates on attack/defend on all of the maps, and we normalize accordingly. Not all wins and losses are equal. We also look at your individual performance on each of the heroes you play during the match. Everyone has better and worse heroes, and we have tons of data showing us what performance levels should be like on those heroes. We also look at your opponents and whether or not their matchmaking rating is higher or lower than yours. Right then, so what he's saying here is the first thing they look at is when you go into a game, it tells you the average rating, doesn't it? So if it's 2k versus 2.1k, the 2k team, if they win, will get a little bit more SR because they've beat a better team on SR, right? So that's kind of fair. And if the better team loses, they'll lose a little bit more SR than normally they would. So if they were going to lose 20 normally, they might lose 23 or 24 because they've lost against a team which is quite a bit lower than them. However, the matchmaker generally does match you pretty close unless you're at the really highest level of the game, or I guess at the really lowest level of the game, where sometimes it can struggle to find you, well, people to play with. Map specific SR. This is I totally forgot this was a thing. So what we've got here is Blizzard obviously know maps that are defender bias, right? So you could say that let's say Anubis, right? Anubis is defender bias, right? You probably will lose the first point, which I guess is similar to Hanamura, but the final point is very, very in favour of the defenders actually holding that point. So if you manage to win on the attack very rapidly, we don't know what factors they're taking into account here, whether it's the time it takes for you to capture both points, or we just don't know, and for good reason. Like I said, I will get onto that towards the end of the video. So if you win on Hanamura, that means, or Anubis, or even Volskaya, that means you would get more SR than you would if you won, let's say, a King's Row game. We don't know. I would say probably, because we can see the win and loss rates if you go to websites like Overbuff or Master Overwatch and websites like that. You can kind of see that information. I think more specifically Master Overwatch. But you can tell by playing the game, right? You know certain maps are easier to defend on, certain maps are easy to attack on. You could argue that when it comes down to King of the Hill maps, they probably don't have any bias because, well, the maps are identical. There's no map advantage there at all. Like you could say Route 66 first point, you might be expected to win if you start off as the defenders on Route 66. Again, like I'm getting confused here because we don't actually know the details. He also goes on to say that not all wins and losses are equal. So that's true. Like what that means is, like, if you beat a team with higher SR than your team, then you will get more of a reward, which you should do because they were a better team. But like I said, the system does generally match you with teams that are very close in terms of MMR. Also with the map, yes, also with the types of players on the other team. But what is most interesting out of all of this section is he confirms that they look at every single hero you play in that game. And my question here is, Overwatch is a game about, well, I guess it's more of a statement and a question, but Overwatch is a game about swapping your hero to be flexible. The best players know that, yeah, I probably should change my hero right now because this one will be more effective than, let's say, sticking on a McCree. Problem is, though, if you go into a game and play McCree for the entire match, surely your McCree statistics will be better than if you played McCree, Soldier, Tracer in that. That's 3 different heroes. That would be extreme if you swap that often in Overwatch. Typically you might swap once, maybe, or well, twice I'd say is extreme to different heroes. So what is the better thing to do? Well, we kind of know, right, that maining a hero right now is more effective than just playing loads of different heroes because they compare you against other people playing that hero of the same level. So by level I mean the same MMR, the same SR. So if you're playing just one hero over and over again, you should, in theory, become much better with that hero instead of spreading out your ability onto other heroes, which is counterintuitive because Overwatch is about swapping your hero. So it's interesting reading this back. Now, this is a fairly old post, obviously, but reading this back and then seeing the way that the system actually works through things as a community that we've worked out. Anyway, Jeff goes on. At no point in MMR calculations do we look at your win-loss ratio, and win-loss ratio is never used to determine who to match you with or against. We are not trying to drive your win-loss percentage towards a certain number, although the fact that so many people are at 50% win rates makes us extremely happy. That's probably because it does indicate that the system is working, right? You should always be in games that are pretty much 50-50 in a way because you want a good challenge, you don't want a complete stomp, right? So that's why Jeff would be happy at that. All the system does when it comes to matching on skill is attempt to match you with people of a similar number. And that number is MMR, right? Not SR. So what we've got here is Jeff saying it doesn't look at your win-loss ratio. So again, if we go and look at the recent thing with the Mercies and like, oh, look at Mercy, under 40% win rate, yet she seems to magically be in GM. What's going on here? You know, if I had a 40% win rate on Soldier, there's no way I would be at that level. That kind of debunks that because Jeff's saying we don't even look at that. We don't even care. Maybe, right? That Soldier, if you were a Soldier and you had a 40% win rate, but you were getting 80 eliminations a game, which you wouldn't have a 40% win rate if you were doing that, which again, I guess is probably one of the problems of this. If Soldier's performing that well, he will carry the game and that team will win. Mercy, on the other hand, what is the system doing? What is it looking at in terms of Mercy's abilities? This is where we go back and we sort of reverse engineer what's going on with that character. And this is why a lot of people have come to the conclusion it's probably something to do with her resurrection, which doesn't necessarily mean you win the game. But if she's popping off lots of reses and resing multiple targets all of the time, the system thinks, hey, she's really good, this Mercy. So even though she's losing all these games, we're not punishing her too hard because her MMR is actually really high and her performance in the game corresponds to her high MMR. You see, I think one of the things the system does do is if you've got high MMR but play really poorly. So poorly, I'm talking poorly in the eyes of the system as well, guys. I'm not saying, you know, if you were playing a McCree and you got an awesome entry kill into a fight, so you went straight in and popped Anna, right, with 2 sweet headshots, but then for the rest of the fight you kind of really didn't do too much. In the eyes of the system, that's not great. But actually, you've just caused your team to win that fight because you've just killed a key member of their team straight away. Whereas the system would think you were actually a better McCree if you got 2 eliminations, let's say, in the whole fight and did more damage, but your damage was just spread out across loads of people. You were spamming barriers, you were shooting heroes, loads of body shots, whatever, right? The system would think that McCree was better when actually, and you could ultimately lose that team fight. The first McCree example, he went and he popped the Anna. He's actually a better McCree, but the system can never, ever, ever, ever work that out. So with the Mercy thing, possibly it's because, yeah, it thinks Mercies are playing really well through getting numbers of reses. Like, I don't want to bash on Mercy. She's just the easy example right now, guys. So don't take this as like I'm bashing Mercy or whatever. Anyway, we move on, and we've got posts here from Scott Mercer. Now, this is when Scott went into a bit of detail on the way SR is calculated, right, and worked out, because there was a whole thing with SR and supports, right? I made a video on this. I said it doesn't look like supports are getting the right SR. I think they made some changes to this, which corrected it. I think it was the fact that assists were not granting much in the eyes of the system, so I think assists are now a little bit better for supports, but this is basically old news at this point. Anyway, this is what Scott said. The change to the handling of assists also affected how often a player might earn on fire status during a match, but the amount of a player is on fire does not directly affect SR adjustments due to player performance. There is some correlation between the two because both systems are trying to measure how well are you playing, but there are significant differences. The determination of being on fire basically doesn't mean that you're playing good or bad, but it means that you're playing good because, well, you're on fire, so you're doing things the game likes, and you get on fire rating by doing loads of different stuff like capturing the point, right? I would be lying if I said I haven't done this. Let's say on Ball Sky, first point attack, we wipe them off the point. I'm DPS, I'm Tracer. I should push forward and just start harassing them, right? We've taken the first point, it's being captured, but actually, if you stand on the point and capture it, it'll give you on fire status, right? And sometimes that's enough to knock me over the little pip to actually put me on fire, and I'll stand there and do it because I think, oh, obviously the game wants me to do this, so I'm going to do it, you know? But what he's saying here, Scott, is a lot of people got confused, right, with on fire, saying, actually, if you were on fire a lot, then this gave you a lot of SR. This meant you were playing well. Well, if you are on fire, it generally does mean you are playing well, because the on fire thing is based off, well, the stats system, yeah, which we don't fully understand, and we never will, and I will get onto that at the end of this video. But so like, what's going on? Like, what is the thing with all of this on fire stuff? I mean, there's a lot of information out there. If you go and look on Master Overwatch and you look at the best players, right? So if you filter by region, let's say NA or whatever, just go there now, masteroverwatch.com, Google it, whatever. Go and check out the leaderboards. It will tell you how much on fire those players have been. And yeah, it'll be high. It'll be 10% average, maybe 15, 25%, you know, something crazy like that. But it's not the same. Like, you would think the person at the top of the list would be on fire the most. Often they're not, and it's all over the place. So that does kind of indicate that, yeah, on fire isn't the be-all and end-all. It's just it's basically a graphical representation on the screen when your portrait goes on fire to sort of make you feel a bit better, I think. It's weird. It's really, really weird on fire. And then Scott goes on to say this: calculation of your SR adjustment after a match doesn't look at your teammates, but instead compares you to the performance of other similarly skilled players with that hero across an enormous pool of competitive matches. So we compare your Genji play to the play of other Genjis, Ana versus Anas, etc. Since we're comparing apples to apples, we shouldn't see any kind of support-specific bias in SR adjustment due to player performance. This is what I think. This post is what started the whole. Very clever people looked at this and thought, okay, we have just been given confirmation here by Blizzard that if we main one hero and get good at that hero, we will shoot up through the ranks. Because that's what SR adjustment is based on. It's not based on your teammates, so screw my team. It's not a nail in the coffin, but this is quite damning, really. This is a group-based game. This is a game where we've got to play as a team. This is why when I came out with the idea a couple of weeks ago where I said, yeah, we can have this performance-based SR system up until, let's say, 3K, and then it becomes more about win or loss where the team has to work together. Because in this setup right now, and what Scott has literally confirmed here, and we know this to be the case, you can ignore your team and you can just play Torb or Sombra or Bastion or Orisa. Notice I'm picking very off-meta heroes. The reason for that is, or Symmetra, right? Those heroes have got less people playing them, so it's easier to become better than the average. Because if you play a Soldier or a Tracer or a Genji, there are loads of Soldier, Tracer, Genji players, right? Tons of them. You need to get really damn good if you want to go up through the ranks, right? Because the system's going to go, oh, there's actually millions of Tracer players. Oh, you're not performing great. Whereas if you were playing Torb or Sombra, it's going to go, oh, there's only 80,000 Sombra players, right? It's easier to do it. And I think very clever people at the time looked at this and were like, that's what I'm going to do. And, you know, we're seeing it in extreme cases right now where Mercy, again, going back to Mercy, there's a lot of like Mercy one-trick hero, players in the highest level. But it's not just Mercy. There are loads of one-tricks. The higher you go up the ladder, people generally are just playing one hero. And this is why I think it becomes quite toxic. Most of my games, I think if you average them out, they're about high master level I'm playing at. So let's say 3.8 to 4.2k. That's basically where I play the game, right, in that bracket. It's very toxic, right? And I think it's toxic because people are all one tricks, right? You've either got people who play DPS, people who play tanks, people who play healers, right? And if somebody takes the healer that the other healer main wanted, then it becomes very toxic, right? Because that person at that level is proven to be really good at the game on that hero, right? So you might have a super good Ana player, but somebody locks in as Ana. Or your team might go, we don't want to play Ana, we want to play dive comp with Lucio and Zen, and the Ana player doesn't want to play Zen. So you get arguments breaking out because of that. But anyway, what is this whole secret SR system? And why have I kept saying repeatedly through this video, at the end we'll get onto this. I run a YouTube channel, right? And this is going off on a bit of a tangent, but YouTube does not tell you how YouTube works, which is completely stupid, because if you're running a channel on YouTube and YouTube doesn't tell you how it works, what the hell are you supposed to do? The reason why they don't tell you how it works is because you would abuse the system. You would do things to make sure your videos always appear at the top of search results. Years and years ago, people used to put tags, which are like the descriptive keywords for videos, in the description of their videos because they thought that would shove the videos higher up the search ratings. And I think YouTube might have even have said it actually did. I'm not sure. This was way before my time on YouTube. It is very much the same for Overwatch. You cannot tell people how your system works. You can't go, oh yeah, well, you see, how we actually rate Soldier 76 players is their accuracy and how much damage they do. We don't really care about eliminations. If they said that, right, Soldier players would then know they've got to be accurate and just do damage, don't really care about eliminations, so they would do things in games to not kill people because they'd farm them for damage. Imagine if you were in a 1v1 with a Roadhog, right? You'd shoot him, you'd shoot him, you'd shoot him. You might think about a Helix rocketing him or something just to finish him off. But no, leave him, let him heal, then shoot him again, right? Because you're going to do more damage to him and you're going to pad your stats out. So they will never tell us how this system works. To be fair to Blizzard, they've told us too much already. Scott has honestly told us way too much with that last quote I just read you off, which basically did confirm that if you just main a hero in a group game, in a game that's based around flexing your hero, then you will get more reward, which is, well, crazy. So they will never tell us. I can only hope that in the future we get more stuff to sort of show us our stats. I think we need a scoreboard in game, definitely, just to see what we're doing, and I think that would help with toxicity. Sure, it would generate more, because if you're playing a DPS and you're not getting the eliminations, somebody on your team might go, hey, you're not doing great, can like you get off Soldier or whatever? In that case, there's evidence for it, right? It's like, okay, whatever, do it. But I know people are people and they'll be quite aggressive, and Blizzard don't really want that. The positive to a scoreboard, though, would be you can see that you're actually playing well. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Stylosa, and this has been a very detailed video on the secret SR system, or why the system is secret, and we will never likely get a lot of detailed information on this system. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoy making videos like this, more detailed videos, and let me know what you think about this in the comments below. I've been Stylosa, this is Unit Lost. You can join the Discord server, which is now working again. There was too many of you guys joined it, so you broke Discord. How hilarious is that? But it is discord.gg/Unit Lost, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Toodaloo.